talk to me about some of the habits that you think have contributed to that success and growth over the years.
Yeah, I think when you're in leadership, you have to take massive ownership and responsibility for what you're leading or what you're owning. If you're a salesperson, whatever that may be, you also need to take action. I see a lot of people who get into analysis paralysis. They're always planning. They're always getting ready to get ready. And, for me, I just couldn't stomach that. I had to be moving. I had to see something be shoved. Dave says things don't move unless they get shoved. And I thought, oh, I'm going to shove something. And so, I think that when you're building habits and when you're trying to build yourself, I think it's going to be uncomfortable when you're doing that. And so those habits help you kind of navigate being uncomfortable and kind of saying, okay, why am I even doing this? And so I think if you're trying to grow yourself from your current position, I started here as a sales guy. There's nothing wrong with being a sales guy. I could have been a sales guy the rest of my life. But, I also had aspirations to grow, but I had to do well in what I was doing first. And I see so many people get so much pie in the sky, euphoric attitude. And it's like, man, be where you are. Do well there first.
Yeah, we talk about KRAs a lot around here. And if you're not crushing it in your KRA, you're not going to get to that next level. And every time I've leveled up, because I've had, 18,000 jobs here, it's always been because I was doing really well at whatever was in front of me.
That's correct.
But you're also doing a little bit more. You're always doing the next job a little bit, sometimes intentionally, sometimes accidentally.
Yeah.
Was that the case for you?
Yeah. I mean, I did okay. I did well. I kind of looked at it like two different layers. Your KRA is what kept you employed, and then there are things that get you promoted. And if you're not doing what keeps you employed well first, you really have no business talking about what do I need to do to get promoted. And I see that struggle, especially with folks like in a marketing role or something like that. Sales role is like pretty cut and dry. You're either making the numbers or you're not. But yes, to your point, I see also people that struggle where they are and they're like, man, I want to go to the next spot. And they're always dreaming about how they can do that in the 8 hours they're supposed to be doing their KRA, rather than going, well, how do I stay late? How do I work through a lunch? Or how do I come in a little early? Not saying you blow up your whole life for that, but that may be what it takes if that's really what you want. And so defining what you really want is really what matters in that moment. And then what needs to be true for me to get there.
In your time here, have you experienced people who just say, well, Chris, I want to be in leadership, man. I want to be in leadership. I want to be in that spot.
Yeah.
But you sniff it out and go, what you really want is a title.
That's right.
Versus you really want to do the work. You really want to serve people.
That's correct.
In this capacity. Have you found that to be true? And how do you deal with those situations?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when people are saying like, man, I want to be in leadership, leadership is one of those things that should naturally flow out of you. I mean, are you getting water for your team? Like you see someone on a long sales phone call, you go grab them a glass of water? Or are you wanting to be in charge? Do you need that ego stroked to have that title to where, you can hear people, they'll lead out with their titles. Sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, like that means more to them than seeing their people win. And so your customer problems and the people on your team are more important than your promotion every single time. And you got to lean into that.
So what did it take for you to develop and maintain those healthy habits that enabled you to grow as a leader?
Yeah, coaching. I work with the coaching team here at Ramsey, and, I love what Steve Chandler says. He says, a coach without a coach is like a doctor that won't go to a doctor. And if you're going to be leading, you need to be coached. We have so many blind spots in our life. I know I do. And I need to be able to ask people like, hey, help me see what I'm not seeing. Because if you don't have someone speak into your life and coaching you, leadership can be very lonely and in isolation, and there can even be fear that creeps up, like imposter syndrome, and you start making really bad decisions because you don't have someone speaking into your life. And so I had to go get me a coach, George. I mean, That's what all leaders need. That's what all coaches need. That's what every single person needs. They need that person that can speak into their life.
That's why I love the EntreLeadership advisory groups that we have. No matter how successful you are, to be in that group with like-valued people, like-minded people, man, you just can't help but go, oh, man, how'd you get through that? Because I'm experiencing the same thing, and I thought I was the only person. And it's amazing what can happen when you surround yourself with people who are in the same space as you. I love that. So I want to talk about this idea of contentment versus drive. This is a tough thing to do as a leader because we're told to be real driven. We want to always grow. We want to see the results. We want to scale the thing.
That's right.
But then we're also told, well, you got to be content. Do you find those things to be in opposition? What's the relationship between those?
Yeah, I think they both can be good. It's not an either or. I think it's an and you need a balance in your life, period. We use a phrase in our coaching world called constructive discontent. It's the reason why we're sitting in air conditioning right now, because at some point, some person was sitting out in the field in the elements in the freezing cold and said, what would it be like if we were in a room with like warm air flowing in? And they started moving towards that. And that's why we have air conditioning. That's why we have, a house now, because people were constructively discontent. The negative side about that is when you're just discontent. There's no amount of money, material, or trips that you can do to escape an unhappy life. And it really boils back down to your identity. Like, who am I? A great book was written by Viktor Frankl called A Man's Search for Meaning. He says, if you understand your why, you can endure any how. And so contentment comes from your identity and knowing who I am, what am I about, what's my family about, and then that drives what I do and choose not to do. And that's where that constructive discontent comes in as well, because now you're going, I'm good, but what would it look like if we got better?
And if your identity's wrapped up and it's only about results in the business, well, then as soon as you don't see that result, you're a failure.
Oh, you
spiral.
You implode. Yeah, absolutely. And, we call them mental hurdles in our coaching world. Yeah, you can get blocked. And I work with people that are stuck all the time because they've had one past failure, or they're so far in the future planning, they're not just going, okay, what do I need to do today? If you're building a house, you build it one level at a time. You handle that where you are right then. And again, some people they're sulking in their past, or they're planning for their future, and they're always getting ready to get ready. And it's like, dude, move, and build where you are right now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how you kind of deal with that discontent or that contentment and drive. You got to do both.